Okay, so we're going to be getting into game 3 of effOrt versus Sharp. And so far, I've been really impressed by Sharp's play. His TVZ is actually very impressive, just being very on top of going for the proper timings, knowing when he's supposed to push out, when he's not supposed to push out. And his late game is actually really fantastic, so I am impressed by this guy. I didn't think I'd be this impressed by Sharp, especially in a TVZ, but it's been pretty good so far. He's already shown that he can do 2 openings very, very well. He did the +1 5 racks in the first game, and in the second game, he went for a 2 racks opening into a pre-meterless timing. That worked out very, very well for him. And although I think effOrt has honestly been playing very well as well, he just hasn't been able to gain a foothold, even though he's doing a really good job of getting into the right positions. He just, once the game, I think, reaches a certain point, effOrt just kind of has a mental block and just kind of throws units at his opponent until he dies. And either it works for effOrt or it doesn't work, and then effOrt just slowly starves out. And that's the key problem that I'm seeing with effOrt a lot of times, is he takes very inefficient trades when he thinks he has a lead, and causes him a lot of problems. In any case, we are going to be seeing an early pool come out from effOrt. This is very different from what we normally see, and I believe that was actually an over pool, not a 9 pool. So we're not going to be having an insanely early leading aggression coming out from effOrt, but it is going to allow him to put some pressure on his opponent and maybe pick off some SCVs in the early game. So scouts are going out right now. Sharp scouting in the wrong direction to start, but they're cross position, so it's not like he would have known anyway. I wonder if effOrt did this opening just primarily to throw off his opponent, kind of expecting maybe like some sort of cheesy build coming out from Sharp, who's in the lead, maybe not. I'm not sure. Or maybe just trying to throw Sharp off with a non-standard build, but unfortunately, Sharp actually scouted in the wrong direction twice, so he's not going to be able to see these links coming out across the map until they're almost at his base. And this is the best case scenario for effOrt right now, because this SCV is not really going to see anything until it's too late. Are these links going to actually get out of sight before the SCV passes by? No, the SCV is going to see a couple of links coming out, and he's going to immediately start pulling SCVs. So really nicely played. Very good map awareness from Sharp, immediately seeing where he needs to pull his units. So good stuff to see so far. And behind this, just the standard 3 hatch going up for effOrt. And yeah, you can see effort's he's probably in a little bit of despair getting over here. He made 6 lings, maybe 8 lings, and coming over into the space, seeing that his opponent's already prepared for the pressure. That's gotta hurt. It's a little bit brutal. But it does force Sharp to build his CC on the high ground, which does lose him a little bit of mining time, a little bit of production time. And it will allow effOrt to actually get a scout up here later. If you saw earlier, he hid one of his Zerglings behind the Merle lines, which will run behind any Marines that start to poke out when the expansion goes down. So really cool play coming out so far. And what have we seen from Sharp? What is Sharp's tech going to be? Looks like he's going into a very standard build, not going to be going for the +1 5 racks. But he scouts out this link behind the mineral line. Wow, that's really impressive. This is the Star Sense from Sharp. Is this Sharp or is this Flash playing? Hello? Really cool stuff to see so far. Actually, I take that back. There comes the engineering base. So we are going to be going into that +1 5 racks build. The eBay felt a little bit later than normal. I wonder if that's just the result of having to build that CC on the high ground instead. So we'll be going into the +1 5 racks coming up pretty soon. Meanwhile, effOrt just going for the Mutalist at tier 2 as well. My voice is a little shot at this point, but I'm going to continue casting for at least the end of this series. And enjoy it. I'm going to make some hot tea. Take a 5-minute break and make some hot tea for my voice. With some honey. Water's doing well, but not quite enough. Not quite enough to contain the hype that is StarCraft Remastered. So far we see all of the racks coming down from Sharp. Gonna be probably going up to the full 5 racks pretty soon. Be very unusual for him to go +1 3 racks, but I suppose it wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world. I think that's what we might see, actually. He didn't build the extra barracks, so it's only going to be 3 oh, okay, never mind, there's the extra racks coming in. I was about to be worried. But no, we are going to be going up to the full 5 racks. And even cutting production just a little bit to make sure that he gets that out in time, as well as continuing to build the SCVs, so... Interesting prioritization from Sharp, just making sure that he gets those extra barracks down a little bit sooner, willing to delay his first push by a little bit, but I guess that's standard for the 5 racks build. You know what, Effort doing a good job of just scouting out his opponent, seeing what's going on. I think at this point you know that your opponent's probably not going to be going for a very early push. Basically allows you to chill out and play a little bit greedier back home as a Zerg player. Sharp does scan the Spire, so he knows what's coming his way. He's already going to be building those missile turrets as soon as he has the chance. Fortunately, having trouble building it in this mineral line. He just spent like a solid like 10-30 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds just trying to get that SCV to build. That's alright. I think he ended up giving up. Oh no, he got it eventually. It's always frustrating. So there are 2 Sunkens coming down from effort. He's not going to play too greedy this time. He's got them down at a reasonable time period, so he's not going to be in too much trouble if an attack does come his way. And I like that he's already getting ready to put down more, because to me that indicates that he's ready to go for this counterattack playstyle while taking this extremely early third. And honestly, this game is going pretty well for effort so far, except for that. That was a little bit disastrous for him. Ended up losing a Mulus and taking a lot of damage on the rest of them. One of those in the deep red. But he is taking his 3rd base behind this, and this Mulus pressure is doing a really good job of keeping Sharp pinned back the way that effort was expecting. He's going to try a small trade here to pick off some of this bio ball, and I think that's a very smart idea before it starts pushing out across the map to just pair off a few units, because he's going to be able to reinforce closer to his base. It's not that big of a deal. Good scan from Sharp, but he's not really going to be able to get over there by the time it's actually done. Luckily, Effort already has these Hydros in place. He's going to be able to get his Lurkers down, and that's really nicely done. I'm a little bit surprised that he's going to be going for the double block on the Hydros, because honestly you only really need 1 to block the ramp as far as I know. Unless these are extra wide ramps that I don't know about. This is a very tense moment where he has to get this Lurker in place to protect his other Lurkers and get the other Lurkers back in time to prevent Sharp from actually getting up this ramp. And so far it was a really good job with that trade. That was a really nice trade for effort overall. And he's already heading up to the hive. So again, effort just doing a really good job succeeding where a lot of other Zerg players are failing at the moment, which is just functionally getting up this 3rd base. And we saw earlier, Jadon had a lot of problems with that, but effort seems to be doing it very handily without any problems at all. So there's definitely something to be learned from him just by watching these games, watching these VODs and replays and stuff. Really cool stuff to see. I think we saw only a single starport coming out from Sharp. He is going to be going into fairly standard play, not going to be going into the hyper-aggressive SK Terran style. And pretty interesting that effOrt actually replaced some of his Mutalisk so that he has a full Mutalisk group again. He really wants to keep up this Mutalisk pressure and keep Sharp on his side of the map. But Sharp is already teching up right now. I don't think he really cares so much about killing the third base. He's already acceded that that base has already been established. It's not going to be stopped. And behind this, he's just going to be focusing on getting the tanks and the science vessels that he needs up. It's going to allow him to do a very straightforward push into the natural, or the fourth as it goes up. So I really like this play from Sharp so far. Doing a good job of just saying, oh, I can't really break that base. That's fine. I will just go ahead and transition properly. And effOrt continuing to harass, not the best Mutalisk micro there. He ended up losing a Mutalisk for basically free, so that wasn't great for him. But in any case, he is going to be able to continue to keep Sharp kind of peeled back a little bit in his base. Dropship coming in. I wonder if he's just going to dropship the, if he's just going to lift the Vultures in. I would really love to see that. Lift the Vultures straight into the third base, and there would be nothing to actually defend over there. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing. Those drones could get massacred in just a second. We'll have to pay attention to that drop, see what goes on. Here comes the drop. It's actually going to be going into the main with some bio. Only one Scourge was in position to actually deal that. 2 more Scourge coming in. They are going to be able to pick off the dropship, so that pressure is gone. And effOrt actually trying to trade with missile turrets over here in the main. I'm not sure if that's the best use of Mutas. He's going to be able to eventually take down the turrets and maybe start to get some damage in on the main. But he needs to be careful about overcommitting with those Mutalisks, losing all of his map control, losing all of his visual, all of his frontward vision of the Terran player. Fourth player going down now for effOrt. He's pretty confident that he can actually take this, but here come all of the Vultures. This is the scary moment. This is the scary moment. Can he actually hold on? He doesn't quite have a swarm yet, so he can't protect this mineral line. That's really what he's mostly worried about, is just making sure that too many drones don't go down. Really good focus fire on those spider mines. He's actually going to be able to clean that up very nicely. So even though that could have been a really horrible scenario, it actually ended up being okay for effOrt, all things considering. It's been unfortunate that he wasn't able to pick off that SCV trying to build that fourth base, but at the same time, he's still continuing to keep his opponent pinned back. He's preventing Sharp from really taking the full map control that Terran would normally want to take at this point in the game while they're transitioning to mech. Really good at Radiate. That's going to kill quite a few of those Mutalisks, but they're just going to continue to be annoying in this main base, and with no more bio really coming out, these 2 Mutalisks are going to be causing a lot of trouble for a long time. And by these 2 Mutalisks, I mean these 5 Mutalisks, these 4 Mutalisks. Sharp doing a really good job setting up a good trap for those Mutalisks. He's going to be able to finally clean all that up. But look at the minimap for effOrt. Look at the minimap. Gigantic line of conga line of Lings just running across the map, getting on top of this base, and they're not going to do any significant damage, but they now have adrenal glands, and so they're starting to get a little bit dangerous. Again, this is one of those things where I wish that Zerg players would group up their units a little bit better instead of just walking straight in. If he had a Defiler with that group, he definitely could have actually just outright broken that base and forced the lift off, but instead he ended up trading 2 subgroups of Lings for free, basically killed off a handful of Marines, not really anything special. But the good thing is effOrt has managed to get up his 4th base, and that's really the whole point of all this pressure. The Mutalisk pressure in the main and all the Lings running across the map, it's allowed him to get this 4th base up completely free, as well as starting to get up all of his upgrades as well. So he's in a good shape. Like, he's in good shape going into the late game, honestly. And when you consider how weak Sharp's economy is compared to most Terrans at this stage of the game, it's not really that impressive. As long as effOrt rather can actually fully saturate this 4th base, he's going to be in good shape. I actually wish he would have saturated that fourth base earlier instead of going for the big wing attacks. But again, I think that's a little bit of hubris, thinking, oh, you know, I'm like so far ahead, I can probably just throw away a bunch of units. And again, just throwing his units into a bunch of bio sitting out in the middle of the map, not really paying attention to it, not having a defiler or any lurkers nearby. That's something that I worry about a little bit. He also needs to make sure that he has a defiler in both his his fourth base and his natural. If he doesn't have that, he's going to find himself in a rough situation later when he's trying to break out of those bases or when a big army is knocking on his front door. So good job here cleaning up the remainder of this bioforce. Sharp has already established that 12 o'clock base, and he's starting to establish the top left base. That top left base is going to be key for establishing the rest of the game, trying to get his lead and split the map properly. But effOrt finally doing a really good job of pushing out and killing all of this bio. He's finally got a pretty safe area in front of his main, in front of his fourth base, so he'll actually be able to start pushing out and putting some pressure on his opponent if he wants, but he really needs to make sure he gets full saturation on those four bases before he switches into full-time unit production mode. And actually, he's floating a ton of money. This is a little bit uncharacteristic, actually. I just realized he's floating 2,000, 2,000. I wonder if that's just him actually saving money in preparation for a big Mutalist switch or a huge Ultralist flood. It's a little bit rare to actually see Zerg players or pro players in general flood this much money or float this much money, but if effOrt is floating this much, I think it has to do with a gigantic tech switch that could be inbound. And honestly, at this point, I think I would go for the Mutalist. This is, even though this looks like it's favored for Sharp right now, as long as effOrt actually saves up Levra, he could actually just jump very quickly up to 150 supply of pure Ultraling and just completely wipe the floor with Sharp's army. We do see he just spent a ton of money, so I believe that's the Ultralist coming in. It's going to be the first set of Ultralists, and he's probably going to be following it up with yet another set. This is about to go from 0 to 100. All of his money is spent all the way up to 150 supply. Suddenly, Zerg is even with Terran, actually ahead in supply, and this beautiful drop coming down in the natural as well is going to be able to put down the Darkstorm and kill off a lot of SCVs over there. So this is becoming very, very crazy, and all of a sudden, Sharp just dropping in supply. He's down to 135. He has 20 supply less than the Zerg player. Once these Ultras start coming across the map, I think that's going to be the beginning of the end for Sharp. He's got a lot of units, and he's got a lot of units in good positions, but effOrt has just done a really good job of biding his time, saving all his money, and finding the proper timing to actually move out across the map. Here come the Ultralists, here come the cows. Can they actually break through this Terran army? So many Ultralists, it's insane. Oh my gosh, so he's going to be moving out across the map right now with all these Ultras, trying to break this top left-hand base. And with all of these units being distracted by this drop over in the natural, I don't think they're going to be ready to deal with this. There's so many units moving out across the map, so many Ultras, and tons more Lings flooding out behind it. And behind this, it's also going to allow effOrt to go ahead and take all of his bases on his side of the map as well. He's trying to distract over here up in the natural, but the real key is all of the pressure that's coming up to the high ground over here. This is going to break this base for sure and prevent Sharp from really mining it from at all. This is so nice too. He also manages to get into the 12 o'clock base, also manages to get a couple Lings into this 3 o'clock base to kill off SCVs, and the economy for Sharp is just absolutely in shambles. He doesn't have anything. Meanwhile, effOrt is going crazy. He's taken all the bases on his side of the map. He's continuing to flood units. He's up by 20 supply, which is almost never happens in this matchup. And he's just continuing to just go down that left side of the map over and over and over again, trying to do as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, lost a lot of his drones over there, but he's going to be continuing to drill that 12 o'clock base, and with only a few tanks to defend, there really isn't enough here. There's no mines and just a few tanks. With good micro, effOrt is going to be able to completely break this base pretty soon, and cause all kinds of problems for his opponent. Even some of these Scourge coming in to snipe the Science Vessel, so this is all really, really good, and that top left-hand base was not able to get up. This is great, great, great for effOrt. He's absolutely doing a fantastic job of just finding the right moment. This is insanely good. I cannot get over it. And now that he's broken the top left-hand base, he's got something to spot. He's killed off the command center, and now he's just going to drill into the natural. He's got the economy. His opponent has to remake SCVs and try to reestablish some other bases, but at this point, honestly, effOrt can just continue to flood tons of lings, tons of ultras, and just eventually break down his opponent. He's going to be sending a couple more ultras. I don't like this move with the ultras alone without any lings. They're never going to be that effective, but there is the GG effOrt coming through victorious in that game, and that was so beautiful to watch.